Hey everyone, today we are going to be taking a look at this dryer. It is an LG, and I'm going to show you the model number. It is an LG model DLEX5101V. And the problem with this dryer is it's not heating up. And so my wife came and told me that she thought the dryer was broken, so what I did is I basically just hit on, time to dry, made sure the temperature control was on high, and started it for 2 or 3 minutes. And then I opened the door, stuck my arm in there, and noticed it was cold. So that's a good indication that things are not working the way that they're supposed to. So up next, we're gonna show how to take this thing apart and fix what's wrong. So the first step here is we've got to take this whole top part off. And so I'm gonna zoom around here to the back and show you this piece right here. This metal piece right here has got to come out so that we can tip the top back. But yeah, so there's little tabs on there. And there it goes. On this particular model, it has the water pump on top of the dryer right here, this water pump. And so this water hose right here is what that's protecting, and it runs down into the dryer if you're putting it on the mist, turning on the steam function of the dryer. So now that that's done, this whole top can hinge back on these parts. Now what you need to do is there's a rubber grommet here, and the end of the dryer is here, but right here is a metal kind of push pin spring thing that you have to push in on and slightly push up to pop it forward. And it takes quite a bit of pressure, but you can eventually get it. So right there. And that's what we were pushing on, this piece right there. There's also one on this side. So we're gonna push on it. Basically do the same thing. There we go. And then you just lift the top back. And like I said, it sits on those hinges. All right, so now you have access to the top. Here's a closer look at these things here that hold the top down. I said I use a old butter knife to do that. It works out pretty well, and it's strong enough to push these in. But this is really a chore to do this. Fortunately, I was able to do it with one hand. Okay, so next you want to take this screw out here. There's another screw right here. All right. Now, this whole top part is loose. So, you may be tempted to take this whole tray unit out here with the water pump on it. And I was also tempted to do that. But the problem is once you take all of this apart, you don't have anywhere for it to set. And I found it's actually easier if you leave it in. It makes getting the drum out a little bit more of a challenge, but it's not insurmountable. And I feel like it's easier to leave this whole unit in and don't mess with it, because like I said, it's this wire right here that you cannot unplug from anything to separate it from this whole unit to move it out of the dryer and out of the way. So anyway, just a little tip there. So next thing you want to do is you need to get this clip out, so push back on it so that it's free. Okay, so once you have those screws out here and here, Now you need to open the door and take the screws out. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take these 4 screws out. I'm gonna take that filter out as well. Okay. So as you can see, the whole thing kind of started hanging there. So I'm gonna hold this door and take this last screw out. Okay. Now that that screw is out, you want to make sure you hold this part up and close the door. Now, kind of put your leg, kind of like what I'm doing, put your leg up against that and pull this whole unit out. Now don't pull it too far because you're going to have to unplug these sensors. So there's one sensor here, and that's the, well, I'm not sure what sensor that is, but there's a sensor with a plug. Unplug it. This is the door switch sensor. So you want to unplug that. Okay, so now you should be able to pull this door all the way forward and lift it out. So just like that, and now you want to set it aside. And this door is heavy, so be prepared. So this is the light switch. It's not a sensor. Okay, so now you got the front off. And so the next thing we're gonna do is remove this piece right here. That is 2 screws. So now this is the thing that captures, or the lint filter goes down into here. Now is a great time to clean this out if you haven't already, and you'll probably, if your dryer has any age to it at all, will probably be full of lint and things like that if you don't regularly clean it. So clean away. Okay, now we need to take the front housing, that white part, we need to take it off so that we can pull the drum out. So before we start taking anything off, there's a sensor here that we need to, or the plug we need to unplug. Okay, so there's that sensor. Here's this screw. There's another one. There's the last screw. Okay. So now I'm gonna go put these screws up. And again, I always like to separate. Looky there. One of these is not like the other. See how that one's smaller? That goes with the door screws. Whoever took this dryer apart last time put the screws in wrong. So there's the 4 door screws. Here are the 4 screws that hold the door and the drum in the dryer. Okay, so notice that there's some tabs here that when you lift up on this, it pops those out to side of them, and that pops out like that. Now, there are 2, see these, there's a roller right there, and there's a roller right there behind there. It's a wheel that rolls the drum. So we're gonna have to make sure that comes off of the drum when we pull it. So we're gonna do the same thing, lift those up. Now we should be able to just lift this out. And again, like I was saying, down here you'll have to kind of finagle it a little to get those wheels off. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So see those wheels right there? That's what the drum sits on. So you wanna make sure you get those taken off. Okay, so now set that aside. All right, now you can see back in there, there's a motor and there's a belt that runs on a shaft. And I'll get a better video of this once we get this drum out. But essentially you have to stick your arm back there now and release the tensioner pulley and take the belt off of that shaft. So basically, you stick your arm back there and you can push that pulley. Actually, maybe we can, I don't think you can see it from there. In just a second. Okay, I got it. So now should be able to, we can use this belt, and actually we'll have to remove it from the same two wheels that existed on the front or on the back. So again, kind of use your leg and pull the drum a little forward. See how that moved forward? Now we can grab the drum by the belt and lift it out of here. Okay, so all I'm doing is holding it by the belt. So now we'll set this to the side. Okay, so wanted to point out one other thing. As you have this belt off, it's a good idea to check it. Make sure everything is good with it. And as I was checking mine, I noticed, you can see that that's starting to fray a little bit. So we're also going to need to put a new belt on. So it's a good thing we saw that. Okay. All right. So now here we're going to zoom in on this. Okay, right there is the idler pulley. And what's happening is that's pulled up like that, and the belt runs zigzag in that to this pulley here and to this pulley right there. And so the belt goes around that, and then this comes in here like this to keep tension on the belt. So when you reach your arm back in here, what you're looking for is about right here is where this tensioner pulley is going to be. And you can put your thumb right there, right above that spring, pull this pulley this way, and then the belt is real easy to get off. All right, so now that you have all of that taken apart, you can kind of see the components here of the dryer. Here's the heating element right here, and there is essentially this is a high temperature thermostat. This is the part that I believe is the most common to go out, and I think that's what's wrong with mine. I think it's called a thermal fuse, and then there's another thermostat right here that it could be the problem as well. So I'll show you how to test those next. Okay, so now we're going to check for continuity, which basically means will it complete the circuit. I've got a Syntec digital multimeter, picked it up from Harbor Freight, and here's what the setting is to check for continuity. And so I'm going to show you what that looks like. As you can see, as I touch these wires, should be 0. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to check all these to make sure that when I touch them with both these leads, so as you can see, I'm touching right there, and then we have 0 on that one, touching the top and the bottom, 0 on that, so that one's good. So that's the heating element, so we check those, that looks good. Next I'm going to check this thermostat here, got it connected there. Okay, so that looks good, so that one's good. Let's plug this back in. Oh, so we have 1 right there. That is not good. Put these together and make sure it's still, yep, still measuring right. Okay, so we know this is bad. So we're gonna have to replace this one. Okay, so we got that side is good. And now let's do, and that side is good. So it's just this one. Now, I have read that anytime you replace that thermal fuse there, this one right here, it's a good idea to replace that one as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and order both of those. Come back and get them swapped out. All right, so here are my parts. I've got the belt. This is the thermal fuse, and then this is the thermostat. I'll put links to part numbers and the links to where I got these. But let's get these opened up and make sure that they're good before we put them on the dryer. Okay, so now we can pick this drum up. And again, I put it up against my hip to give me a little leverage. And there's this ridge back here, right there, that this thing will sit on, which is why you need to pick it up and kind of work it in to get it in there. Again, there's those drum rollers in the back that you have to put it on top of. All right, so there we go. Got the back in. So now, the next part is going to be to connect that belt. And again, you can't really see it back there. I don't have very good lighting, but there's a motor back there with the... But you gotta get the belt on the pulley. So I'm gonna get that done by sticking my arm back there and grabbing the belt and hooking it on that pulley and getting the idler pulley set up. And then we'll turn the whole thing to line the belt up. So I'm gonna need my other hand for that, so I'll be right back. Okay, so now I have a flashlight so you can see that idler pulley is pulling that belt tight up against the pulley on the motor. So now when I turn the drum, you can see it turning. Okay, so now we're gonna line up make sure this belt is in line. So we're gonna slowly turn it. Don't worry about that noise. That was just this falling. Take that out of there. The next part is putting this piece on. And again, remember those rollers down there have to be underneath the dryer, or the drum, I mean. Okay, so like I said, this roller here is up underneath there, and the easiest way I did that was before I hooked it into any of these, I got this roller and this roller up underneath the drum and then pushed these tabs in, and it was a lot easier to do then. So now that everything's in place, we can see all this rolling without me having to do anything. I mean, obviously I'm turning it, but it's keeping it in place because this is holding that drum in the right spot. So now we're going to put our 4 screws in. Okay, now we need to plug this sensor back in. Okay, now this is in place. So next thing we need to do is put the lint trap in there. It is. Okay, now we can put our lint trap back in. So now we have to put the front of the dryer on. As you can see, there's 3 white tabs there. Go in line with those 3 holes in the bottom. So the first thing we'll do is hook those just like that. Now, remember we're going to plug our light switch in. And this is the dryer door open switch indicator. So we'll plug it in. So now that those are plugged in, the last thing is to make sure this is above that piece, and then we just slide the door in, or the front in, and put that screw in, and that screw. Okay. All right, so that's the front. Now, remember we have to put these screws in. Now it's real precarious because of this little switch right here. This open and closed. So I push it to open and then slide this tray. See this tray here? Oh, I'm not sure what I'm doing. This whole tray slides. You can pull it out all the way to here and back into there. So I pull it out some, and then as I see how it's not lined up, so I slide it in until it will go in, and then there it slid right down. And so now you can see I still have a gap, so we just gently push that down. Make sure it's all good up here. Okay, so we got this side in, and this little trigger is still working like it's supposed to, so that's good. And then this side's in as well. All right, so that is it. It's back together. I'm gonna go plug this in and give it a run and see what happens. All right, so one thing I forgot to put back on is this little cover piece right here. Cover up that drain or that water hose. I'm gonna run basically the exact same test. Turn it on, time dry, temp control all the way to high, and hit start. Let it run for a minute. Let's see, oh yeah, it's warm in there. So I stick my arm in and it was warm, and that was the problem. So that is how you fix, or that's how you replace the thermal fuse and the high temp thermostat in an LG dryer. Again, the model number I'll put in the description. I'll put the parts that I used, and I appreciate you watching, and please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.